Hi, everybody. I'm Laurie Calcaterra. I'm the writer-creator of Path of the Pale Rider, your favorite Western apocalypse comic book series. You can find me all over the place. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube, and I host the morning show, the Tuesday Morning Brew, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Any One World Showcase on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you're watching and listening to Two Geeks Talking.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We are joined today by a fellow podcaster. She's an amazing talent in that respect, as well as the writer and creator of Path of the Pale Rider. We're joined by the ever-talented Laurie Calcaterra. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's good to have you on. I love talking with a fellow podcaster. I love talking with the comic creators. For those that don't know anything about yourself as a creative person, tell us who you are and what you're bringing to Two Geeks Talking today.
Oh, goodness. Oh, okay. So I'm Laurie Calcaterra. I started my whole journey with martial arts. I'm going to make a long story super short and you can ask lots of questions, right? So I started training in Indonesian and Filipino martial arts in 1997. I started a fight choreography team in 2017, was part of a production company, started writing short form web content for them. We had pilots of the series I wrote called The Agency. I moved from Michigan to Texas, wrote this series called Path of the Pale Rider as a full-length movie. And then I didn't know what to do with it. I sat on it for a while, decided it was supposed to be a comic book, and first published well, I met my artist in January 2022 and then first published in July 2022. So Path of the Pale Rider is a Western apocalypse comic series where death has been broken. So your body can die, but your soul or your energy doesn't leave your body upon death. So yeah, we have zombies, but it's not your typical zombies. They're just people who are living impaired because you're still yourself after you pass for a short period of time. After your brain starts to decay, you can lose your memories, you could become violent or vegetative, detached. It hits everybody differently. And it's people, animals, insects, fish. Death has been broken for every living thing, and things fall apart very quickly. We're 10 years into the apocalypse, and we're following this cowboy named Jude St. Clair. He's the last guy still looking for that answer of why do the dead no longer die? Oh, did I mention things have devolved back to the Wild West? So you get things like zombie bears, conspiracy theories, zombie ethics, whole lot of action, and even some hot sauce on top. We are 6 issues into this series. The first arc is 12, so we're about halfway, and it's really getting good. I'm so excited to be where we are. The journey's been a lot of fun. We're still having fun.
A lot to take in.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's a long story. I'm going to spew it all out into the internet, and then you guys can ask questions.
I've seen a lot of dystopian, a lot of apocalypse comics throughout the decades here. What is the most misunderstood aspect about the apocalypse, especially with Path of the Pale Rider, that people who don't follow the genre misunderstand?
For people that don't read us, a lot of times I'm putting stuff out there talking about what's going on with I call them undead, but of course, a lot of people call them zombies. And it's like, what do you do with an undead child? Something like that. So we talk about the ethics behind it. And they're like, well, I'd put them out of their misery. But it's like, in this world, that option is gone, right? There is no death. You could shoot them in the brain. It doesn't do a thing. All you've done is make them more chaotic because they have less of their brain to use. And so trying to explain to people the difference between your typical zombie genre versus Path of the Pale Rider, I think is part of our challenge where they see us and they're like, oh, it's just another zombie thing. And it's like, it's really not. It's really not.
One thing I noticed about this, and maybe it's because I watched Torchwood and Doctor Who, and maybe it was a movie in Torchwood towards the end of the series there where they kind of try to wrap up everything, where it's like death was basically broken as well too. So I was like, oh, if you haven't seen that. So the Torchwood series, I think, was only 3 seasons, and then because it got canceled and the fans brought it back or something like that, they did a final movie. And so they brought back all of the original cast as much as they could. And it was just a really amazing, really well done thing. So if you haven't seen it and you're a Doctor Who type fan, then Torchwood, if you haven't seen that series, watch it. It's a really cool mix. So it was very relatable to me because I remember that particular movie, and it's like, okay, well, this is something that seeing the undead or seeing people come back that from life, basically, or from death, and still living was like, this was okay. I can understand this. It's relatable to a certain extent. It still fits my sci-fi wheelhouse, so I really love that aspect of it. And the characters are very relatable as well too, because I think ethics in comic books is rather interesting to have, especially when it comes to the apocalypse.
Right. This book is interesting because I don't say what opinion is right or wrong. It's a very gray area, and I think that people could approach it a lot of different ways depending on their experience with the undead. So if it's like your mom and she's a little old lady and she just sits in the corner and knits, she can't remember your name anymore, but she's not hurting anybody, you would be more likely to try and keep her in the house to protect her than someone who's like was driving to work and got smashed with a car, because an undead was driving or something happened. You know what I mean? Something happened to you personally where like they're too dangerous to keep in society with everybody else. And so there's the whole push and pull between the living and the undead. And then you have living sympathizers, you have undead sympathizers that are like, we're too dangerous, we got to get out of here. It becomes it's a powder keg waiting to explode. And then when you add like hunger and food shortage, water shortage, you know what I mean, with all the undead animals, it's like if you were to slaughter a cow, you still can't butcher it because it's moving. I mean, if you could, Kurt, would you want to eat a hamburger that still moved if it's like,
It depends on how rare you want it, I guess.
right? It also depends on how hungry you are. But historically, hungry people don't make great decisions either. So that's the world we're in, where it's just such a difficult place. There's still some comedy in there. We have some pretty comedic characters. So it's like, it's not all doom and gloom, I promise. We have a good time.
But if you could describe Path of the Pale Rider in 3 words, what would they be and why?
Oh, gosh. 3 words: Western, apocalypse, conspiracies, right? Because the world is a future apocalypse, with the Western. So that's those two. And conspiracy theories, because that's the whole point of what we're trying to, that's the journey we're following with the protagonist. He is looking at all these conspiracy theories and trying to figure out who did this to the world and if he can fix it and maybe put things back to the way they were.
But after living like this, would they want to go back to the way things were? I mean, is that the true epitome of what you're trying to do in 12 issues?
He doesn't, let's just say this. In these 12 issues, he does figure out the reason. He does not figure out how to put it back to the way it was. There are more. So this is actually 12 is the first arc. There's a total of 36. So there are 3 arcs. And so, well, I say 36, but I mean like it's 3 arcs. We can dish them out in any way, shape, or form, just depending on how our Kickstarters are doing, how much funding we have. By the time we get to the 3rd arc, I might just dump the whole thing on you as a graphic novel.
Sure.
We could do, instead of 12 issues, we could do 6 issues, and it has double the content in each. It just depends on the funding. It's a 3-part story.
Okay. Well, look, all great plays and all great movies, go are in 3 arcs or three aspects. Yeah, I think that's wonderful to see. Talk about the main cast of characters here. Who are we following, and which one of these are your favorites?
Oh gosh, I have a few. Obviously the first main character is Jude St. Clair. He is the protagonist. He's the guy that we're following. It's this whole story is from his point of view. There's a lot of characters moving in and out of this story because the undead, I mean, like again, you can't kill anybody. And so even if you started as living and become undead, you can still come back later on in the story. So there's characters that people are still hoping to see later because they've become undead. There is another living person in this world that is one of my favorites. His name is Dwayne Fink. So in the beginning, this is who Jude St. Clair is looking for because this guy, Dwayne Fink, claims to know what started the apocalypse. But when Dwayne is found, he is standing on a table drunk, basically spouting nonsense in this town called Santa Claus. And so you don't know if you can trust anything this guy says, but he's one of my more comedic characters where he just like stumbles through the world and is able to survive somehow. So any kind of scene that Dwayne is in, it's a lot of fun and you're just gonna laugh. It's shenanigans with Dwayne. You're gonna see army characters. You're gonna see it's like we're in the point of the story we're about to shift. So we have 1 through 6. There is issue 7, which is a monster, and then everything after 7, and it changes. And so we're going to see, I can't say who's coming, but there's more characters coming that Jude is going to meet. And then when he meets them, they remain in the story for the rest of the story. So we haven't even met all the main characters yet. We're just getting into the good parts.
You know, you're balancing a lot of action, emotion, you have some exposition as well. Like, if you're going 36 issues or if you're going with a 3 arc structure when it comes to this particular story, that's got to be challenging, balancing all of those avenues of emotion, action, and exposition. How are you handling that? Is it like an Excel spreadsheet? Like, how are you working through all of this?
You know what's funny? I wrote this originally on 3 by 5 cards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was 2018 when I started writing this. And I was using a 3 by 5 card method, which I found for writing screenplay, which was interesting because you could think of all these different things that could happen in your world, and then you can shuffle them around. You see what I mean? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
you can find where it's supposed to go. Oh, I had a new idea, and you can shuffle it in where it belongs in the deck without having to rewrite a script. And so that was my first draft, was just making all these ideas and how to fit them together. But a lot of times what I do is I treat it like a screenplay. We have an act 1, an act 2, and an act 3, right? And so we have the big story, so all 36 together. And then we have within the 12, there's an act 1, an act 2, and act 3. And then within each issue, we always have action, we have some exposition, we got to have some character development, and then we're off to the next issue. We usually with the cliffhanger. And so it is a lot to kind of keep track of, but it's all in here, it's all in paper and in my 3 by 5 cards somewhere.
Just don't lose the 3 by 5 cards. You know, that'd be horrible. Like, oof.
It's history. No, they're there. They're at my desk right here.
Under lock and key, hopefully.
Yes.
If you could spend a day with one of your characters, who would it be and what would you do together?
I would want to hang out with Dwayne. I feel like he has 1,001 stories to tell, and he would make a really good drinking buddy. So that would be the best, to like go to the bar with Dwayne, like drinks are on me, Dwayne, and we would just giggle and have a good time. And I'd ask him 1,000 questions about his experiences within the apocalypse. Because that man, even though he seems crazy, has seen things that he could tell you about.
Do you come back to any themes or ideas when you're writing out this particular series? Is there something that just you always gravitate back towards because it's either what you enjoy writing, or is there something else you want to approach or broach when it comes to your creative process?
I really love an overlying message. So I'm always laying that in there. And it's not whether zombie is like whether you side with the zombies or not. It's more about Jude St. Clair being determined to figure it out, not giving up. And then I really like the idea of existentialism. So, what is it that makes people human? And how we as human beings can forget the humanity of others, when it comes down to it, because there's that whole push and pull between the living and the undead where they don't see each other's humanity anymore. And so that's kind of an overlaying, theme that you're going to see is recognizing someone's humanity or recognizing that they have lost touch with their own humanity. So you're going to see that in the book. Jude just doesn't give up. He's already lost so much in where he is, and he's going to unfortunately continue to lose. So I don't know if that's like an underdog kind of theme. I like those stories as well. So I think, that's going to come through in the story.
Do you find it difficult to write that particular story? Like, you're writing a lot of heavy themes in this respect too. Like, that's got to wear on you from a creative perspective. Like, I know you're not trying to wrap everything up in a bow, but do you give yourself hope when you're writing this?
Do I give myself hope? Meaning, do I hope that the characters get out okay? Or how do I keep myself sane? Or
A combination of both, to be honest.
like I said, we do have comedy built into the story, but we also do comedy just in the real world. And so, like, where you're going to see the comic book get dark, we'll do things in the fandom that kind of make us giggle. Like, one of the stretch goals we have in our campaign is just silly. It's called the slice and dice. When we get to a certain dollar amount, it breaks. The fandom gets to vote on a name of a pumpkin or a watermelon. Last time we did a jackfruit. So they name this thing, they vote on a weapon of destruction. I dress up as Pikachu because why not? And then, right, why not? And then I destroy the thing on my podcast. So we do silly stuff. We all have this kind of dark, silly sense of humor. We do silly things to kind of make it a little bit lighter, you know?
Was there a scene that you wrote down and you gave it to your artist? Was there something that turned out better in the art aspect of it than you had written down on the page?
Oh, let me tell you about Sad Pancake. You haven't gotten to this part yet,
Yeah.
Kurt, in the story, but in issue 5. All right, so issues 1 through 4 are penciled and inked by Marco DeFio. His schedule got so busy because he's a full-time artist, had to kind of shift gears. And so I brought in a new artist. His name is Gilbert Perez. And so he started with issue 5. So he's 5, 6, and I don't think he's going to leave. He loves the story too much. So in issue 5, he drew this scene, and originally in the script, it was just people involved, but he drew a puppy into this scene, Kurt. And now it was one of those scenes where not too many people make it out alive. Nobody makes it out alive with a heartbeat. We'll just put it that way. And then when he got to the final panel, I was like, make sure that you end the puppy. And he was like, what? He was so upset at what he had done, and I was like, did you not read the script for this scene? Like, the puppy has to go." And so he ended the puppy, but our fandom, okay, before they knew what was coming with this puppy, I had put a drawing of it in the group and I said, "Name this puppy."
Jeez.
So the fandom named the puppy Sad Pancake, right? And then he now has his own cover for issue 6. And so, because of this weird accident or like Gilbert not realizing what he was doing, we now have this new character in the story. And I brought him back. Actually, this was the first time that we veered off from the original script
Oh,
written
wow.
in 2018. That I went into 6 and I was like, Sad Pancake needs to come back. It's like that was never intended. It was just Gilbert drawing a puppy, and now we're off and running with Sad Pancake. That's what happens.
So the merchandise line of Sad Pancake is coming along nicely, I take it?
Oh my gosh. People are like, Sad Pancake stickers, Sad Pancake pins, Sad Pancake t-shirts. And I was like, okay. So off we go. We're going to have Big James and Sad Pancake. It'll be a thing.
That's wonderful. I love that. The marketing side of things is amazing, especially if you have a fandom, especially if you have a community around what you're creating. I think that's wonderful to see. And whether they give ideas or whether they name things that are eventually going to die, kind of a twisted way to market. So I think that's rather impressive.
It was so funny because I was waiting for someone to ask me, why are we naming this puppy, Lori? No one ever did. I was like, okay. It's like, you should know by now.
Every time you name something, you kill it. It's just like,
Not necessarily, but I do always warn people with the story, don't get too attached. Everybody and everything, is expendable, but then can still come back and continue in the stories. But there's emotional moments and you've seen some of them, but
yes.
they continue, right? Wait till you get to issue 4. It's a doozy.
Good thing I stopped at 3 at the moment before.
When people read 4, they're like, how could you? And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, something had to happen. Like,
So, how much do you like to reveal things, and how much do you like to leave mysteries when it comes to Path of the Pale Rider?
oh, I love the mysteries. I'm pretty close. I play it pretty close. There's things that have been going on in the story I might allude to when we're talking, like issues 3 and 4. You're going to see a character and maybe not understand this character because you're seeing this whole scene play out from Jude St. Clair's point of view. But once later on in the story, you actually meet this character and understand who they are, that whole scene takes on a whole nother meaning. And so there's symbols, there's QR codes, there's Easter eggs all over this comic book. We have a journal entry. That's the very first page that you read. And if you pay attention to the dates that I put there, a lot of times they have meaning. Did you read all the way to the end of issue 3, Kurt? Okay. So the date that's in the beginning of issue 3 is Mother's Day. Right? So again, there's just these layers of meaning hidden within the story, just waiting for people to uncover them. So I don't usually tell you too much about what's coming, except for it's a doozy. And I'm telling you guys, number 7 will rock your world. So 6 is setting that all up. It's such a great issue with Dwayne Fink because you get to see just how crazy he is and how he functions in this world. But then Jude St. Clair has to make some really heavy decisions about what his future is going to hold. And it all unravels in issue number 7. So it's like, this is the perfect time to start Path and just binge read 1 through 6. So that way you're ready for the big reveal in 7. It's coming.
No spoilers, please. I want to be surprised. That's the main thing. If you could explore a completely different genre or style in a future project, maybe not Path of the Pale Rider, but a future project, what would it be and why?
Okay, so this is a fun one. So 2024, I started doing some anthologies. People were seeing my writing and appreciating it and offering me some opportunities. I've been writing for William Russell, Psycho Sal, which is like an 80s horror slasher in New Orleans. And that's kind of in my wheelhouse, right? So horror. And then I was offered a Western short for Big Dog Inc. And then I got another horror anthology, which is Cthulhu Invades Fairyland. But now I actually did a short for Terry Parr, and he writes a series called, well, he draws a series, he brings in writers for this series called Gemini Force. And I had a blast writing this, and it's two 80s rockers that are cloned and they're flying in outer space. And so they play rock concerts and get into shenanigans. And so this is nothing like, it's not a Western and it's not horror. And I had a blast. I wrote 2 short stories for Terry. So his next issue of Gemini Force, I did all the shenanigans. It's like Saturday morning cartoons with these two 80s hot chicks that are rockers in outer space. It's
Nice.
hilarious. And I had a blast.
Sounds like my wheelhouse.
Right? And I was like, I want to do more of this. So if Terry ever needs more writing, I'm going to volunteer.
Going into the creative process, I think, is rather interesting, especially for a writer, and the fact that you've been in the industry for a while too. You have a lot of life experience when it comes to fight choreography. I think it would play well with what you're creating in general, whether it's whatever genre that may be here. What is your ideal creative environment? Do you have like a specific setup or routine? Is there something that gets you into a zone?
Oh, well, if I need to get in the zone, I go for a walk by myself. Having the quiet and just being alone with my own thoughts. I'm that weirdo that'll put a headphone in so it seems like I'm talking on the phone. I'm not. I'm talking to myself. While I'm either walking by myself or walking with my dog, and I'm just playing scenes in my head and talking through the dialogue. That's really what I find works best. When I'm here at home, there's always somebody because there's my husband, there's the 2 kids, there's a dog that wants to go in and out, the phone's ringing, the messenger is going, the email is binging, right? And so I find like I have to remove myself from my regular space just to be able to brainstorm. But once I get that idea, then it's like, all right, I put my headphones in, I sit at my desk and I just type it all. You just got to get it out. And after that, it just flows. But I got to have that quiet space, I think, to be in my own head without interruption.
The work-life balance is obviously a huge factor. Yeah, exactly. Like I was wondering how you manage that sense of self while still maintaining a family and work life.
I'm lucky enough that my kids are both school age. I'm mommy in the morning, I get them ready for school, I take them to school, and then I have that block of time between when I drop them off and when I pick them up that I'm free to podcast and, do any kind of writing. I letter, talk to my art team, catch up on emails, plan for whatever I need to do. Like it's that block of time. And then once I pick my kids up from school, it's back to mommy mode. It's like, what homework do you have? What after school activities are going on? Getting everybody back, cooking dinner, get dinner on the table. And then after dinner, it's again, I can be free to like podcast again in the evening, touch base with more people until it's bedtime for the kids. So it's just like this push and pull between personal and, business. But being a business owner, you have the opportunity to work any day and any time you want to. So once I put the kids to bed, if I need to write some more, sometimes I'll sit at my desk until midnight just to get it out.
Does that help you though, like kind of either de-stress from maybe something that's happened in the week or in the day, or is there something that just is it your creative outlet in order to de-stress yourself? This writing.
No, that's where I go to fighting.
Fair enough.
That's when I go punch things. I'll get the sticks out. We'll go bash a watermelon. That's great for letting out stress, Kurt. Let me tell you.
I practice Japanese jiu-jitsu myself, so that's I did that for. Oh yeah, I know. It's for me. It was is being a short guy throwing the tall people. That was always fun. That was my stress
Yes.
relief.
Well, it's always interesting when you go to some place new and of course they're judging you on your appearance. I have a friend of mine, her husband is a tall Filipino man. And so when the two of us go, to some place, we go check it out, they always assume that he's my teacher. And he's like, "Nuh-uh, she's my teacher."
Nice.
And so it's just, it's kind of funny how that happens.
Being in martial arts definitely helps kind of center yourself too. I think when I started practicing, it was just like it gave me that focus I kind of needed at that time of my life, and it's a continual reminder of we're always trying to find that balance with ourselves, whether we're creative or whether we're in work.
Yeah, I take a lot of my work ethic from the martial art background that I have, just understanding that everything is a process. And the more you practice and the more time you dedicate to it, the better you get. That's really it. Like you are in charge of your own success.
That's a great mantra to have, especially being creative. What was an early experience where you learned that language had power?
This is an interesting question. Can I phone a friend? I'm not sure what to say for this one. Language has power. I mean, yeah, I mean, the internet kind of teaches you that. Like you have to be careful with your words. I don't get any good answer for this, Kurt. So
It's
you're like,
either,
nah, you got to answer your own
yeah,
question.
yeah. I hate answering. That's why I ask the questions. No, I've been on that side of the microphone. Well, in terms of an example, I think it just comes back to maybe there was a phrase or something that was told early in life that just kind of stuck with you, or maybe it was someone that was putting you down, where you learn that language has an effect on you personally or professionally. There's that avenue you can go by, but there's also maybe there's words you've said to someone that has either inspired them or put them down.
I'm known for going on the internet and telling people to get back to work.
That sounds like positive reinforcement,
But
though.
it's funny because it's usually me telling myself this, but it's like as a creative, if I need to be told, "What are you doing? You're wasting time. Get back to work." Someone else needs to hear it too. And so I'm silly and I go on my Facebook and I say, "Hey, creative person, get back to work. Hey, indie author, get back to work." You know what I mean? It's like as a creator, if you're wearing all the hats, no one's getting it done unless you do it. So get back to work, everybody. Hopefully, no one takes offense to that.
Everyone usually asks, what's the wisest piece of advice or what's the most BS piece of advice you've ever received? But, well, bullshit. I mean, I just want to swear, but it's what I was trying to keep it clean, but it is
You're
what.
right, right.
Yes, your kids listen to this, whatever.
Exactly. They won't, but
What is the second wisest piece of advice that you received that has stuck with you in your career?
second wisest. First wisest was probably, again, that if you're not going to do it, it's not going to get done. The second one is, I would say, try to make every day the best version of itself. Go into every day with an intention of what you're going to do with that time. Just because time is short, life is short, you never know. And so you should always approach, like if you approach a project, approach it with the intention of making it the best version of itself. So whether whatever that means to you, removing ego, spending, dedicating a certain time every day or every week to work on things, or building your team into, the same like mind as yourself. You should have an intention, and that's where we are. That's where my team is, where we have the best intention for our story. So we are critiquing each other. We are pushing each other to do better every time. It's about the project.
Is there a creative habit or practice that you have that you've adopted to team building and working with the team in terms of collaboration that people can kind of build off of themselves?
Well, we have a lot of open communication. We touch base every week. Like I said, we all collaborate on things. I never take on the hat of ultimate leader of all time with I mean, yeah, the buck stops here, but if it's like when it comes to the creative process, I'm more interested in discovering what they think as opposed to being narrow-minded about my view of what it is. Because again, something could be an accident like Sad Pancake and take on a life of its own. And if I was like, Gilbert, there is no dog in here, take it out, it would have changed everything, right? And so just having an open mind, communication with each other, with the team is essential because we're all on the same page about what path is and what it can be if we all push. And so I highly recommend, open communication, daily, weekly, monthly, however you want to do it, communication, and then surround yourself with like-minded individuals. We all kind of have a silly, um, dark sense of humor on my team. So that works to our advantage because, someone will come up with an idea and be like, well, what about this? And be like, yeah, but what if you did it this way? And then we brainstorm just ridiculous things. And that's how like the slice and dice is born. It happens. We have scratch and sniff stickers coming too. That's going to be fun. You want to know what zombie flesh smells like? You want to know.
Yeah, no, maybe not.
Not even a little bit curious.
No, I worked at a garbage dump when I was younger for the city. I think I understand what the smell is like. So
You're like, no, thank you.
I'm good. Yeah. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned about navigating the comic industry as a writer and also as a podcast host?
Oh, don't play into drama.
Mm.
Don't do it. Drama seems to get people views. It doesn't build an audience. I think that drama should be left at home. Even with my story, there's politics, there's ethics, there's, some really deep, dark questions, but we never tell you how you're supposed to think. I think that everybody can bring their own life experience to our story, and that's what makes it special. I think that if you bring drama and you bring politics and you bring one way of thinking into your comic or your podcasting, you alienate what could be your audience, what could be your readers. So that's just my own personal take on it. I don't play any of those things. I dislike it. It just makes me uncomfortable.
So then, would there be anything you would change about the comic industry, either indie or professional, and what would that be and why?
I don't know if we can take the drama out of any business
Mm.
because there's people. People are drama. And I know this because I wrote it into my story. There's ton of drama in my story because it's people related. But unfortunately, I'm like that's one thing I wish that we could all agree. Like we could all say like all comics are valid. There's an audience for everybody. It doesn't matter what your take is. Like, there's no need to cut people down, especially within our own industry, but you see a ton of it.
Yeah.
And so I wish that would change. And I know that is just human nature. I've worked in other industries, like I've worked in the production. I've also worked in the private sector. I used to, do financials for a small business. I've done all sorts of things. And unfortunately, there's just drama everywhere. And that's because it's attached to people. There is no getting out of the drama. I just try to avoid it. I'm here. I am pleasant. I do my job. Thank you. I go home now.
Paycheck into bank account. Obviously, you have a Kickstarter campaign currently ongoing here. What is it about this particular campaign that you've changed from, say, the first campaign you did with Path of the Pale Rider that you're really excited to get to your community?
We've grown a lot since our first campaign, since our first issue. Our first issue was a black and white comic, and it was just two of us. Now there are four of us on the team. We are a fully, color comic. We've gone from very little merch to a ton of merch. We do fun activities. We include everybody in our planning, and so you can have stretch goals for digital backers. We have hot sauce on the campaign, which is crazy. This is something again that happened It's just by accident where a friend of mine made hot sauce with the label on it with my undead bear, Big James. And then everybody wanted it. And I ended up learning how to make hot sauce
Nice.
so I could provide this. Now we have four hot sauce flavors. We have a ton of merch, t-shirts, puzzles, surprise rewards, Funko Pops, you name it, it's all on the reward. What is different, I think, specifically about this one, again, Gilbert Perez came on last issue, and in this issue, he is providing us a ton of original art that you guys can get. And so anything from sketch covers from issue 4 and 5, we have sketch covers where he will custom make you a sketch cover with the character of your choice. And then we have the original 11 by 17 Bristol board from the covers from issue 5 and 6 that are available. And so that's new. We haven't done that in a long time. We do have a tier you can be drawn into as well called Immortality. We like to squish people in the comics, so it's a good chance you might be living in one panel and undead in the next one. Or you might be undead from the jump. Who knows? But we have a lot of opportunities to do fun stuff, and we're unlocking stretch goals at this point. We're like halfway through a campaign or just past halfway through. We funded in the first 25 hours. We funded. I'm looking forward to unlocking those scratch and sniff stickers.
I'm more interested in the hot sauce now.
Yeah, there's three you can get. The new flavor jackfruit and habanero.
Okay.
And I wasn't gonna make it again. It was like one of those like, here's 6 bottles of hot sauce of this new flavor. This is labor intensive,
Yeah.
but I tried it and it's so delicious. I might roll it out at a limited basis because like I can make all three of the other hot sauces, a full batch of 12 bottles each, in one day, all three of them in one day. And this jackfruit takes me 2 hours just to take apart the jackfruit
Yeah.
because
Oof.
they're massive. And so that's why I'm like, this one I probably won't do as often, but you'll probably see me roll that back out at some point. We have a sampler pack. You can add on a single bottle in the add-ons, and we have ghost pepper barbecue, mango habanero, and a jalapeno serrano sauce. They're not super hot, so if you guys are going to come at me like it's not hot enough, it's medium to medium hot because I'm more interested in the flavor of the sauce
Mm.
than I am about the heat tolerance. I don't like that afterburn. I'm not doing it.
But they sound wonderful. Honestly, they do sound like a beautiful blend of different spices for
Yeah,
these particular hot sauces. So,
thank
like that
you.
mango one sounds really good, actually, too.
Yeah,
So,
they're all good on different stuff too,
yeah.
because people are like, "Which one do you like the best?" And I was like, "You're asking me to choose which child I like best." You know what I mean? Like, they're all so different in that I put them on different things. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Barbecue sauce doesn't go on my breakfast eggs. You know what I mean? That's the green sauce.
Sure.
But the barbecue for like chicken or barbecue pulled pork,
Hmm.
that's great on there. But that mango habanero goes great on like fish tacos,
Yeah.
shrimp tacos,
Nice.
anything like that where you're trying to add some spice and the sweetness to it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Awesome.
It's really good.
Everyone has one person that inspired them on their path to where they are today. Who was that for you?
Whew. Okay, so Inspire is different. So I didn't know what I was doing, and my husband was kind of like, "You should do a comic book with your script instead of taking it to Netflix," which I had planned. So my husband's kind of the one that pushed me to do this. I wasn't really heavily into comic books until I got into the industry and started reading. Mentor, though, I would say I ask a lot of questions of Tom Hutchinson over at Big Dog Inc., who's a friend of mine, and he's been in the business for 15 years, and he's, very successful at what he does. And so when it comes to like asking for someone for advice, my opinion is always find someone who has done the things that you're trying to do and ask them. And so that would be Tom. I am always in his chat, like, hey, what about this? And what about that? And he comes up with really sound advice and good ideas for me too. So who pushed me through the door? My husband. And who do I ask questions to? Tom Hutchinson.
It's always good to have a mentor, whether you're doing a podcast or whether you're doing comic books. So it works out. From a professional standpoint, you have created 6, almost 7 issues, and you're going to be creating 36 more. So that's wonderful to see in total there, which is an amazing number to see in that respect. So from a professional standpoint, you are successful. Do you, you're welcome. Do you consider yourself personally successful?
I do. I do. And for a lot of reasons, because one, we were successful out the gate. Like when we ran our first Kickstarter, I knew nothing about what I was doing, and I had set my goal at like 4,550 for our first issue. And not only did we hit that goal, we were at like 5,200 when we ended our first Kickstarter. So then I got into the community and found out what an insane thing that we had done with our issue number one. Because when you see creators now, that's not normal. Um, so I think there's something special about Path that captures the readers, that intrigues them about this world. And so we continue to increase in skill and increase in our savvy and produce an excellent product. And I also think we're successful because we're having a good time. I have the best job in the world. I get to create comic books and talk to independent creators. That's my job. And I'm very successful because I get the opportunity to do that almost every day. And I enjoy it. I enjoy doing that kind of thing, picking people's brains, building up the community, bringing audience members to the fandom that they've been searching for and had no idea existed. And, so indie supports indie that way. I go on a ton of podcasts and a ton of people come on mine. And so we're going to continue to increase our readership. We're going to continue to build our fandom. We're going to continue to knock these Kickstarters out of the park. And I will guarantee you that you will have a good time. You will not be disappointed. And the story's just getting good. It's going to continue to get better. We're in for a wild ride. So you can join us on this path too.
I thought you were going to say Path of the Pale Rider.
Well, the fandom, they're called riders.
Okay.
They call themselves the riders on the path.
Nice.
And so you can join us on the path and you can become a writer too if you would like. Read the story and do all the extra cool stuff that we do, like the riddles and the short films and fan interaction, rabbit hole stuff that you can fall down into. It's fun.
The reverse of success is failure. How do you
Hmm.
deal with your failures?
You learn from them. And then you pick yourself up and you get back to work. Um, I don't know if I've had anything that I would call a catastrophic failure. I think I've been overambitious. When we ran our Kickstarter for issue number two, I also released our Choose Your Own Adventure book. And so I think I had overextended myself financially because I was printing a comic book and paying for art and illustration inside this Choose Your Own Adventure book. So again, you learn, um, you take notes, and then you just get up and you get back to work because if anything can solve a financial burden, it's time and dedication to selling your product. So um, we went in and we learned, and then we did another Kickstarter for three, and we knocked it out of the park. And then I didn't do a Choose Your Own Adventure book on top of that. So that's what I learned. Don't do
Sounds
two projects on the same thing.
The younger generation is looking at your work and they're becoming inspired to be creative in their own way, whether it's as a writer, whether it's as a podcast host, or a community manager that you are when it comes to building up a community. Maybe you were inspiring them down that particular path. And the fact that you have the younger generation with you, with your kids, looking up to you, maybe you're going to inspire them on a creative path as well. How can they inspire the generation that follows them?
Mm. You got to put the work in. You got to get in the trenches. You got to embrace the suck. You got to get in there and do the work. And I think that in itself is what inspires people. That's what's inspired me. Watching creators that have been in the business for 10 and 15 years and how are they able to get to that level of success? It's through the hard work. And so my recommendation to anybody that's getting started, understand what you're getting yourself into and then jump in with both feet and then become a part of the community because you will grow and we will watch each other grow and watch each other's journey and cheer each other on. And then when someone new comes in, you can inspire them and cheer them on. So we can all become a part of this community and read more comics and, encourage creatives.
Wonderful. All right, last question is this. This is the fun one, and I'm not paying for your psychologist because of this question. So there you go. That's your preemptive.
I don't pay for
lead.
the therapy of my readers either, so
Perfect. That works out. If your life was a comic book, what would its title be? And what would its soundtrack be?
Ooh, soundtrack. The title of my comic book is No One Told Her She Couldn't. No, that's the name of my comic book because I always feel like I'm doing things people think I shouldn't or that I don't fit in. Martial arts and comics are it's a male-driven business, but especially martial arts. And no one told me I couldn't do it, so I'm there. Same thing with comics. I was like, no one told me it's a boys' club, so I'm there, and I'm having fun. So no one told me I couldn't, so I'm gonna do it. Um, Soundtrack by Nine Inch Nails. There you go. I love Trent Reznor. He does great soundtracks to begin with, but I love that industrial style. Throw it in there. We'll make it sound really cool as I bake bread and go knife fight and and write comic books. That's it. That's my life.
Sounds like a good life to me. It works out well, I'm sure. Well, I do hate to say it, Laurie, but that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, and thank you for having me on. This is my first time on. I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, well, hopefully you're going to be back on in the new year for sure, and we'll talk more about Path and whatever else you're creating. I think that'll be amazing. For those that want to support you, where can we find you? How can we support you? Where's the Kickstarter and anything else you would like to promote?
The Kickstarter is the best way that you guys can support me where we are right now. We are, again, the campaign is for issues 1 through 6. And so 6 being the new issue, but all of the books are available there, including our trade paperback, which is issues 1 through 4. All of the merch is available on the Kickstarter. If we are not actively campaigning, and this one will end February 28th. But if we are not campaigning, you can find the books on my website. It's just www.pathofthepalerider.com. Most of the merch is there, but you cannot find the hot sauce unless you find me in person. And so some of the cons will let me bring hot sauce and some of them won't. So you just have to track me down if you want more of that hot sauce, or you got to wait until the next Kickstarter campaign. But I do want to reiterate that as an independent creator, these campaigns, these crowdfunding campaigns, are the most important time for us, because that is what ensures that we can continue to make a good product and pay artists a working rate. And printing and shipping and merchandise all cost money. And so that Kickstarter is what helps us give you that outstanding product. I am on some other websites. I'm on charter.com, chartercomics.com, excuse me, where you can find my books. And also Any One World. I'm on the Showcase, so that's the other podcast I host. But NE1, the letter N, the letter E, the number 1, world.com. And I have a collection there as well. And the cool thing about this one is that it ships internationally. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can get your hands on our trade paperback, which is again the collection of 1 through 4. And then when we get through 5, 6, 7, 8, we're going to run another trade paperback, which will be on this collection as well. So there's always an opportunity to get our books. You can find me on my social media. Again, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Blue Sky. I don't know. I'm on all the things. TikTok. You can watch me rebind books there. That's kind of fun. So you can follow me there or catch me on my podcast. My social media is pretty active, so you never have to search too far to find me.
Wonderful. Love that. Well, like I said, that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talk. You can, of course, find me on our website, which is unfortunately going through a revamp. But go to our YouTube channel. I know that's definitely updated because I don't have to host that. That's the main thing. YouTube.com/TGT Media. The podcast you can find at Two Geeks Talking. That's TWO at Podbean, on any other iTunes, any other things where you get your podcasts. Now let's try that again. You can, of course, find the Two Geeks Talking on our podcast, twogeekstalking.podbean.com, or just search Two Geeks Talking wherever you get your podcasts. That's TWO. And of course, as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking.